Let's start then with tonight's headline across all of the back pages. Arsenal beaten by a goal to nil by PSG at the Emirates in the first leg of their Champions League semi-final. We'll start by taking a look at the back page of The Guardian. Advantage PSG, Dembele strike leaves Arsenal with work to do. Riyadh, what was it that Arsenal didn't quite get right on the night?
Look, I think you can probably go to a number of areas. The first one I'd start with is, were they a little bit overhyped? Not overhyped, were they a little bit hyperactive is what I mean. I think when we're talking about this occasion, I know Arteta's made a very sort of eloquent play on it in the build-up to it, in this sort of sense of occasion. The way Arsenal started that game, they were flying into it. I thought Timber was a little bit fortunate not actually to get an early booking. Certainly the goal after 3 minutes, I thought there was a little bit of, maybe chaos is too strong a word, but I don't think Declan Rice or Mourinho are going to look sort of back on the footage terribly fondly on the goal. Look, we shouldn't forget, obviously PSG are an absolutely fabulous side. You go through that entire team, and it's hard to pick a fault. And you know, it's necessary in these moments. We tend to be reactive to the result. We shouldn't forget Arsenal did have chances. If Donnarumma wasn't sort of quite so excellent tonight, maybe you were talking about an entirely different result, and Arsenal taking advantage, or at least being even going into the second leg. But no, I thought watching that this evening, I thought they looked very. I thought they were a little bit energetic at the start. Should we use that as a criticism? I thought it was an occasion that probably called for a little bit more composure than we saw. But again, you have to contextualize it. PSG, they're so quick. What is the correct way to play them? If you sit back against players who are that talented, that fluid, that fast, that sure in the touch, you're inviting problems for yourself. You then step out and you're playing against a team which has got speed in every single area of the pitch. I was incredibly impressed by PSG, more than critical of Arsenal this evening.
Yeah, well, we'll talk a little bit more about Arsenal's chances, the performance of Donnarumma shortly. But I do want to just pick up on your point there, Riyadh, with Henry around the build-up to this game. Obviously, Mikel Arteta has made a point of really speaking to supporters, saying make it happen. There's been a terrific campaign from the club itself targeting social media users, really asking Arsenal supporters to get behind the club. Did it end up getting through to the players maybe a little bit too much and building up this occasion too much? Is it even possible to do that for a Champions League semi-final? And did the crowd respond? And how did you view how the crowd reacted once the PSG goal went in?
Well, the crowd were clearly very good. Absolutely, you're right. The atmosphere was built up. I mean, it's a Champions League semi-final. Arsenal are sort of fed up with the taunts from rival fans. You know, whether it's Chelsea fans or the sort of teams in the Midlands or in the Northwest who've won this great competition, and they want to, the fans want to have that as well. So you look at this picture of Trossard here. I mean, shock and awe. And I think there was definitely an element of awe, but how much of a bigger shock it was. We know how good PSG are. We know that midfield. How good is that? Vitinha, João Neves, and Fabian Ruiz, and that front. I mean, that front three as well. I mean, they are an outstanding team. So I don't think there was so much shock in terms of the quality that PSG played. But to come back to your point, were Arsenal overhyped? I mean, look, these are elite-focused sportsmen who kind of inhabit a bubble in the lead up to matches. So I don't quite know. They'll have looked at social media briefly. They'll have understood the sort of the passion of, arising from the fans, and quite rightly so. But I think if you've seen PSG play in the flesh, the real noise, the main noise, often comes from the PSG fans. And you could see that. I think there were a couple of pictures that you put up early, and you could see in the background the PSG ultras, who are quite a lively bunch with a sort of slightly nasty sort of tweak to some of them. Yeah, look at that, the back page of the Mirror. That's kind of sums it up, that passion there. The flares, the total noise, the total support for the team. So I agree, maybe there was an element of, the fans playing a part. But I just think with Arsenal, I mean, they didn't have an out ball. The ball kept on coming back. They haven't got a number 9 up there. Mourinho was obviously having to play deeper. And there's a lot of people. There's a very good piece in the Telegraph yesterday by Sam Dean, who was just making the point that Thomas Partey, who foolishly got suspended in the Real Madrid game and was ineligible for this game, they missed him so much. And you could see it, as Riyadh was saying, they were cut through that midfield in the first 3-4 minutes with Dembele and Kvaradonu, as they called him in Napoli, Kvaratskhelia. And they just sort of cut through them. And Thomas Partey would have been in that position in front of the back four. So it's not a complete shot, but maybe we should be a little bit in awe of this fantastic, fluid, attractive PSG team.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the players that we're missing then, Riyadh, for Arsenal. We mentioned Thomas Partey there. What did you make of Declan Rice in that deeper position? And did really, when you talk about Arsenal's squad depth, when they had Ethan Nwaneri and Raheem Sterling as the only really senior attacking options on the bench, did Arsenal's squad depth really show up this evening?
I think going to Henry's point there, I think the sort of Thomas Partey, I think, was absolutely key and obviously incredibly unnecessary as well. When you review the yellow card he got against Real Madrid, but I thought Declan Rice generally played very well after the goal. It's difficult to sort of draw a line at that point in the game. It was the defining moment of the match. But I think with Rice, there's a couple of things I would like. He's obviously had to play. He's obviously had to take a deeper position. I think when he plays further forward, it brings Odegaard more into the game. I think they've got a superb sort of proper synergy there between them. I thought Odegaard didn't really turn up tonight. I thought that cost them as much as anything. And then going to Henry's other point as well about that lack of an outball. Clearly, it's been a problem for them throughout the season with the injuries, Havertz, but it's one they've brought on themselves through their recruitment strategy, or rather their inability to provide any cover. So I think that was the key. I think that would have been the key issue more so than anything else that they lacked on the pitch. Again, I would reiterate a couple of superb saves apart. Arsenal had chances to take something from that tonight. I don't think they would look at that on review and say they've done terribly badly. They've just run into a team where you couldn't afford to make a mistake. And you go through that PSG team, watching it again tonight. Neves, I think he is an absolutely phenomenal player. It's still a position on the pitch which somehow we tend to overlook a little bit. Perhaps sort of Rodri's Ballon d'Or corrects that narrative a little bit, but he is an incredible player. Nothing got past him tonight. I thought he was brilliant. Him, Vitinha, Ruiz. That has to be. I'd love it. Henry can probably answer this better than me, but is there a better midfield shelf in European football at this point? I love watching them as and then when you think what they're rotating it up to, and you're knocking it forward to Dembele, you've got Dua. That is a fantastic team. I'm going to disappear on one small tangent here, just because it's been such a talking point of, is the Premier League, does it have the strength and depth? Is it a strong division? Have Liverpool had a walkover? Aston Villa, 7th in the Premier League. They beat this team in a leg recently. I think, it's just a point I would want to make. PSG are a truly exceptional side, and it's an old point, but one we should never get bored of making. They lost Mbappe and Messi and got better. At this stage, I'd make them favourites to win the tournament.
Well, let's bring Henry in then on a couple of those points. First, the midfield, and then also the forward line. I mean, the sun goes with bellyache. He's had an unbelievable season. I wonder where Ousmane Dembele sits for you in terms of Europe's best forwards.
Oh, he's absolutely up there, probably in the top 3 at the moment. But he was playing almost as a false 9, but a very real threat. And Arsenal struggled to sort of deal with his movement, particularly without a holding midfielder of Thomas Partey's quality. I agree. I thought Declan Rice, he was the one who was trying to sort of drive Arsenal back into the game. Odegaard, I was really disappointed with. He's the captain. He really should have been driving them on. It was really down to Declan Rice. But Dembele, I mean, the pace he's got. If he's flying down the right, or he's flying down the inside right channel, or he's moving into the middle, he's obviously got all the so much pace outside him as well to pin the fullbacks, the Arsenal fullbacks back. But absolutely outstanding player. I mean, Kiwior has actually been pretty decent, and he was excellent against Mbappe in the last couple of games against Real Madrid, stepping in for Gabriel. But it was difficult for him because Dembele was coming at him from a slightly deeper position.
So, looking ahead to the second leg now, I mean, look, Arsenal have created chances in the first leg. They'll know that if they get an opportunity, they might well be able to take it. But, Riath, what's the game plan in Paris for Arsenal?
They have to be more clinical. It's as simple as that. I think, again, going to our last two answers, Odegaard needs to turn up. I think so much about this team. I would, we could start with the centre half partnership. I think it's probably the best in the Premier League. But that spine of the team goes through Rice, it goes through Odegaard, and Saka is absolutely pivotal. Those are the guys who are going to need to turn up. But if when they're needing a goal, you're gonna need better finishing from Trossard. You're gonna need better finishing from Martinelli. I don't see how it's going to be any easier. It's clearly going to be harder in Paris. Those fans there, I thought Henry was borderline kind to the atmosphere that they can create in Paris. They can be sort of outright nasty at times. So I think it's going to be fiery. The flares are going to be going off. They're going to have to really turn up, and they're behind the eight ball right now.
Yeah, I mean, Arsenal will say they've coped with Madrid pretty well. They can go away to big sides and do the job. Henry, does Partey come back in for you in the second leg, and does Marino kind of restore himself up front as the makeshift striker?
Yeah, definitely. It makes complete sense. And they also, Mourinho had a chance ruled out for offside from a set piece, a very good ball in from Declan Rice. But I think if Arsenal are going to get anything, if they are going to get back in and get to the final, they're going to have to do it through set pieces, because the PSG are not a particularly tall team, apart from their goalkeeper, Donnarumma. So if you can actually work the set pieces to just sort of hit that sort of danger zone, which Donnarumma probably doesn't want to stray into, and yet Arsenal can attack, and with Nicolas Jauvert, their set piece coach, probably love to put one over on PSG. I think they may have a chance. But when the ball is on the deck, when PSG are flying forward, particularly at home, as Riath rightly says, particularly with those fans. I've walked with them a couple of times before matches, and you're completely right. It is you're looking for an out very quickly with some of them, because they are quite nasty. So the atmosphere there will be against Arsenal. But as you say, they went to the Bernabeu and they weren't intimidated with it there, but then they had the scores on their side.
They did indeed. What do we think then? Do you think, Riath, that we've seen the Champions League winners at the Emirates tonight, be it either side, I suppose?
Like I said earlier, I'd make PSG the favourites. I think the stars have aligned for them, but I do believe Arsenal have got a little bit more of a say to go in this match. And again, Real Madrid can probably testify to that.
Yeah, it's all set up for the second leg. Arsenal work to do, which is covered by many of the back pages as well.